Hey, everybody, I'd like to welcome you on in to the first episode of You Gotta Try This. So what's happening here is that I have a kid whose name is Ian Becker. And Ian was the guy who helped grow Barstool Finance into a behemoth before it came to a screeching halt for no reason at all. Afterwards, Ian was like, Large, what can we do together? And I said, I don't know much, but I know a lot about food. And he's like, I believe you. I will produce everything that you want to shoot. Let's go try some food. So we set out to find the best food in New York City and beyond, and it's all over social media, and it's doing pretty well. So well that I said, why don't we sit down for a little bit every week and just chat about it? Let's chat about the restaurants that we go to. Let's chat about the food that we're trying. Let's chat about the food that we're cooking. And let's bring in guests like Nick Mangold, who's going to come in and try some Grater's ice cream collabo with Skyline Chili. Let's bring in Lisa Ann, who has this new wine label. Chef Greeny had hit me, just said, hey, what are you guys doing? And I said, I'm going to kind of parlay this into a show. He wants to come on. There's a restaurateur from New York, Stratus Morphigan, an old friend of mine. Have him come on. Let people know what it's like to start something up in the city. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about wine, talk about cigars every now and again, but it's mainly going to be about food. What the legendary foods from your childhood were, what the legendary foods from present day are. We're going to cover all of that on this podcast, and we're going to have some fun with it. So you got to try this. Exists on social media, and Ian has gone about making it exist on YouTube. And this is going to exist everywhere that you find your podcast, the finest podcast in the world. And we're going to just have some fun and make sure that people are eating the right stuff, not necessarily the healthier stuff, but the right stuff, and sometimes at the right price. Because what the United States does now is it has all the big money is in places that really don't deserve your business. So we're going to try to highlight some of these restaurants, smaller restaurants mainly, that you should be spending your money at, as opposed to some of these behemoths that do nothing but make you fat and give you the runs. So that's it. You got to try this. It's something that I always wanted to do, and it's something that I couldn't do without Ian. Let's go for a ride. What did we start doing first? The first thing that we did is we went up to the Pastrami Queen up on the Upper East Side just to try the pastrami and tell people, if you're coming to New York City, you don't necessarily have to wait in line at Katz, which is a fantastic sandwich, but you don't necessarily have to wait in line with Katz and jump through all those hoops in order to get a very good pastrami sandwich in New York City. So we went up to Pastrami Queen, had a very good sandwich up there. And from there, we just started to bounce around. Lower East Side, Hell's Kitchen, Midtown, anywhere where I thought I've tried a dish that you should be trying right away. As a background to me, I started on Wall Street. 25 years on the street, and a big percentage of that time I did with this one thing that I miss more than anything else in the world, a corporate card. So I was able to entertain clients for over 2 decades and never have to pay a penny for it. So I took advantage of every restaurant that I could find. That knowledge, which is in my head, has given me the best palate here at Barstool. I'm not an overly confident man. Stone cold bald, 53 years old with gout. I can't do much, but I have a palate that is impeccable. So I'm going to take that palate, transfer it into some content, and give you guys an idea of what you should be eating at restaurants and beyond. So I'm going to say shit like, I'm going to pop these like an aspirin. I've spilt more of this than you'll ever try. That is cut so thin that it only has one side. All of those old school expressions you're going to see. I spent a lot of time in the Chicago office because they have working toilets. So we probably did about 12 or 15 pieces of content out there so far.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to spend a little time in London lately because I cover the fights as well. I cover NASCAR, I cover boxing, and now I cover food. And while I was in London, I was able to probably grind out about 4, 5, or 6 London things. Whenever I'm on the road, I was in Daytona for NASCAR, Atlanta for NASCAR. I go all around the country. I'm lucky enough to go all around the country for this job. And every place that I go, I'm just going to find some stuff for you to try. We did the Gilly and Wallow knockout party, now almost 2 months ago. And it didn't work out that well for Gilly and Wallow. There was some shots fired, the whole deal. I was ringside and I was scared for my life. But while I was there, before that whole shit show started, I had a little bit of downtime. I went to go have Joe Biden's favorite burger. People love the fact that I went there because it was kind of local for them, right outside of Wilmington, Delaware. Some people hated it because they hate Joe Biden. But if you love what I'm doing or if you hate what I'm doing, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to talk about food. I want to express how happy it makes me, because as you get up in years, you don't get a lot of satisfaction from other things. My kids are a drain on me financially. My wife is an absolute shining star, so she's an exception. But food is one of those things that I consistently go back to. I'm a excellent home cook. I do sandwiches of the month. If you guys haven't seen them, go to my pages and follow those, because I make some absolute diabolical mixes in my sandwiches of the month. And now we're going to restaurants. Now we're having guests. And by the way, I'm going to poach people from Barstool to come in and talk about what they like to eat, or take them out with me and get their impressions on what we had just done. Roan, for example, just started Roan.com. I would watch a stool that Roan produced. So to have a guy like that sit down with me and then come in the next day and talk about the meal would be a dream come true. And it's not only Roan. I just spoke with Nate, and Nate is like, I got to get you to this omakase. That's what he said to me. Nate, I'd love to go to an omakase with you. Will you come in and talk about it for 15 minutes? Done. Everybody wants to talk about food. I'm going to give them a forum. There's a lot of food content going on underneath the Barstool umbrella. We'll try to cross promote it right here and create a little, I don't know, the one stop that you would go to anything that you put in your mouth. It used to be Call Her Daddy, because they constantly were putting dicks in their mouth. But now for food, anything that you put in your mouth, except for dicks, we're going to talk about right here on You Got to Try This. And I want you guys to get accustomed. I'm giving Ian a lot of credit, because if I was doing this myself, it would look like it was shot on a potato. So you're going to hear Ian as that voice of God every now and again. Know that that kid doesn't eat much. So he's a perfect guy to be doing this for me, because I never have to buy him a meal. And at my core, I don't like the guy. So Ian is the perfect guy to do it, and he's the perfect guy to try and make me look good on social media platforms and beyond. So when you hear this other voice, I'm never going to put a fucking camera on him. He's Charlie Brown's teacher as far as I'm concerned. But Ian is the guy who's going to be on the ones and twos every week.
I will say, I do have a camera on me, and if people are watching, they do see me right now.
All right, I'm going to try and overrule that, and I'm going to pull the camera. I'm going to pull the plug out of the camera every week.
And just to defend myself a little on the doesn't eat anything, I have been getting better about trying some of the stuff that you're eating in these reviews.
Yes, but I will say, and you'll admit this too, it's been baby steps. Ian has got a brother, plays football down in Princeton, right? This kid is a fucking planet. He came to us, I think, when we did Hen House. And
electric burrito. An
electric burrito. We did it all in one day. And that kid ate like he had 3 assholes. So it's nice to know that you have people in your family who do enjoy fine dining, casual dining, whatever. And we're going to run the spectrum. If I do the LSD at the Brooklyn Chop House, which is their lobster, steak, and duck, they call it the LSD special. I'm going to talk about that till the fucking cows come home. But if I also do a very good hot dog down in Martinsville Speedway in Virginia, then we're going to talk about that as well. So if you have a favorite snack, if you have a favorite restaurant, if you have anything that you want to talk about food-wise, we're going to eventually get some sort of mailbag so we can get some people in here to talk about it, right? We can do that. Probably never take live calls because this isn't a live show.
I can't wait for Nick Mangold to this interview. It's coming up after this, but I cannot wait to meet him. I'm a big Jets fan, not as big of a food fan as I am a Jets fan.
Right.
So that's where I'm excited to meet Nick Mangold.
And everybody that I talk to when they come to Barstool, what Chef Donnie is doing out in Chicago is a perfect example. Chicago has the luxury of being in this beautiful, beautiful office space. We don't have that luxury here in New York. It sounds like I'm sour grapes about it. I apologize. But he has the kitchen, and everybody that comes through in Chicago, if they were to say, hey, by the way, you want to do some cooking with Chef Donnie? Everyone's like, yeah, I'd love to make a fucking BLT. I'd love to make a chicken parm. So he's able to kind of get those guys, and Chef Donnie does a very good job with them. So it seems like everybody who comes through our offices, Chicago's offices, anywhere, are always down to DTF, down to food content. So we're going to have marry, fuck, kill, pancakes, waffles, French toast. What's your death row meal? What's the best meal that you've never had? Somebody asked me that question once. What's the best movie you've never seen? And I was like, holy Jesus. Never seen Citizen Kane. I've heard some good things. I've never seen Gone with the Wind. I've never seen Fight Club. I don't know. Yeah, I've never seen Fight Club.
Fight Club.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of stuff. So I don't know what the best movie I've never seen is, but maybe somebody out there, I'll be like, what's the best food you've never tried? Somebody be like, you know what? I got a fascination with caviar, but I just never had it. I'm not saying I'm going to, bring in a bunch of Osetra, Beluga, Savruga just so, Ian can try it. But I think it's kind of interesting to see what people have tried and what people haven't tried. And if I can just make one restaurant a little bit more popular or one person's palate a little bit more adventurous, then this thing is all worthwhile. And hopefully Dave will pay me more money in the process. Dave has the Rosetta Stone for online food ranking with the pizza reviews. Nobody better than him, and the distribution on that is fantastic. I cannot sit down to take a dump without seeing my boss eating a slice of pizza. And even though I've had a lot of pizza in my day. I was born in the Bronx. I was raised in Brooklyn. I've had some of the finest pizza, certainly in the United States. To where I think I can do it better than Dave. That's not true, because whenever he's up there, I'm like 7.2, 7. Oh, he gave it a 7.3. It's the best thing in the world. But that ranking thing sometimes makes places and also breaks places. At this point in my life, at 53 years old, I was not put on this world to be a goalie. So I'm only going to give you good stuff. If people send us some stuff to try and it's garbage, I'm probably just not going to try it. I've gone to multiple restaurants for the first time in my travels where I thought I would review it for You Got to Try This socials, and it just wasn't that good, so I shit can it. I don't want to be negative necessarily on this show unless somebody pisses me off, and you'll know about it when they do, but I'm going to try to give you guys just bangers. I think that's what the kids still say, bangers?
Bangers only.
Bangers only. No cap on that, by the way. So no Ohio Skibbity toilet. Is that still a thing?
You're on the right path.
Okay. So I'm going to rizz up the food world with You Got to Try This. It's going to be a weekly show. We'll try to bang out maybe an hour every week with a guest every week. And see where it goes from there. We'll get the social stuff up to probably 2 restaurants a week. And let's see if we can make gourmands out of everybody who's listening. Let's get into it. First Hall of Fame that we're going to do is the Entenmann's Donuts. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Entenmann's was a household staple for me. Growing up in Brooklyn, my mom and dad are both Irish immigrants. When my mom and dad first put in a microwave oven, I was born in 1971. I'm 53, I think I mentioned before. So I was born in 1971. I don't know how old I was when we had one of the first microwaves. My dad wouldn't eat out of it because he didn't trust the technology. My dad still thinks that cell phones give you cancer when you put them up to your ear. So we never used the microwave. It was almost like just a status symbol for us growing up. That microwave was a bread box, and that bread box was filled with Entenmann's cakes. And I miss them. I miss some of the older flavors that they had in Entenmann's cakes. They had something called the Metropolitan cake. It was a vanilla cake. It had almost like a marshmallowy type frosting on it, but then there was also bands of raspberry jam on top. And it was, they had a mocha ring that would knock your goddamn eye out. The only bad thing about Entenmann's cakes is that my brothers and I would sometimes leave the knife that we used to cut the cake inside the Entenmann's box. So if you threw out the box as the cake was either stale or getting to the end, sometimes we lost knives, and then our mom would beat us with a belt. But I digress. Entenmann's has everything that we ever wanted that you couldn't get from a bakery. It was just easy to go to a grocery store and get some Entenmann's, right? Those chocolate donuts, the chocolate frosted donuts, I guess they're called. I'll have to look that up again. It doesn't matter. But the hard frosting on those chocolate donuts have been something that have been a part of my life ever since I can remember. And going into the grocery store last week and getting them, I was like, Jesus Christ, I've been buying these things now for close to 40 years, and they have not lost their luster. So in case they go away, they're going to be number one with the bullet when we induct Entenmann chocolate frosted donuts into the You Gotta Try This Hall of Fame. Put it up there right now, Ian, and that's it. And as I have you here, we're going to try and do those Mount Rushmore things where we rank the best breakfast foods, the best foods that you're going to have at a wedding, the best foods that you can have at Christmas, the best foods you can have if you're having somebody over for the first Seder. See what I did there? I'm universal here.
Appreciate that.
No problem. Ian's one of the chosen people, and I'm proud to have him aboard. I haven't been to a fucking Seder.
You're not missing much. It's not really. I don't. As far as I can remember, you don't go for the food.
But it's apples and honey and brisket and all that, right? I mean, that's kind of sounds in line.
It requires a family that knows how to cook.
Okay, yeah, okay. So that's where you're at. That's the hurdle that we have to go. But so all these little segments that we're going to have reoccurring, I think we're going to be able to use those selfishly for social media, and it'll get it talking to where you don't want to talk to your wife about anything else, but you may say, "Hey, Large, hey, honey, Large had put this up today. Marry, fuck, kill, pancakes, waffles, and French toast." Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it used to be, "Hey, honey, I was just talking to Large. Marry, fuck, kill, the Golden Girls." That shit's done, and we're going straight to food. So, like, let's talk about some new food releases. Let's talk about what's hitting the shelves in the next couple of weeks. That's a wheelhouse of the Snack Boys. That's a wheelhouse of my man Clem and my man Eddie. Two of my favorite people, certainly at Barstool, but arguably two of my favorite people in the world. I've been on a couple episodes of their show. I'm sure I'm going to have Clem and Eddie a couple episodes of this one. I just checked. They're trying this, and this today. I'll talk about that. And then I'm going to try something that I just happened to see in a bodega the other day. Why the hell do we have potato chips that taste like Korean fried chicken? Are they any good? Nah, not really. That type of stuff. We're going to do a history section probably I'm going to give you the history of something because Twisted History was my baby for such a long time. So I'll probably do some sort of history of why this food is here and why it's called the hot brown, which I just mentioned before. Why is the cheesesteak so, central to Philly? My white whale for this show, I'll put it out there right now, is I would like to have my boss, Dave Portnoy, who's extremely busy, right? I would like for him to take me to the North Shore and show me some of those North Shore beefs. I've only had kind of half-assed versions of the North Shore beef. It's one of those things that Dave has spoke to me about on a couple of occasions, and I would love to go up there and do something with him. Because I think Dave, with the pizza thing, I never want to do one of those with Dave because he's got it on lock, but I would love to do a North Shore beef with him in a heartbeat. So we're working towards that. If there's something viral that you guys want to see my take on it, I'll just Uber Eats it right here. So we'll do the show, and in the middle of the show, there's some sort of viral chicken sandwich hack at Chick-fil-A. I'll do it. Some viral, order at Domino's. Not a big Domino's guy, but let me try it out. You know what I mean? So anything that should be talked about, let's talk about it right here. One of the things that I find to be a pleasant surprise is that what little time I spend overseas, particularly in London, whenever we post something from London, people in England, the UK in general, they're very proud of their food culture there because outside of the UK, everyone just kind of thinks they eat a lot of shit, right? That they just put beans on toast. So they're a little bit defensive when people come over. I push the edges a little bit by saying, hey, homocolonialism and bad teeth. We got a lot of blowback for that, Ian. Or by mislabeling salt beef, corned beef. And we'll get hundreds of UK guys just coming to the rescue of their country and their cuisine. So it's not something that we just don't see here in New York, or we see in Chicago, or we see in Miami, or we see anywhere. It's kind of a global thing. People take pride in their local dishes. So to get me to Louisville and do a hot brown, Ian was the guy who came up with the idea that I should go to college campuses. Maybe with the college football show. I'd go to every college campus in the United States, and I guarantee within 5 minutes of talking to somebody who went there, they would be like, Large, oh, I went to Butler. You have to go and get this. Oh, I went to San Diego State. When you're there, you have to get this. Purdue, yeah, you got to get this donut. Oh, Penn State, you got to go to Creamery. Like all these, everybody, whether it's a Division I powerhouse or a local community college kids have these places that they turn into legends. They turn into iconic places to eat. I'd love to do that. I'd love to visit your college town. I'd love to come to your hometown. If you tell me I can't get this anywhere else in the world, Lord, you got to come here and do this. That's what we want to do. And then I will leave Barstool when the Food Network throws millions of dollars at me, and I will leave Ian. I won't even make eye contact with him on the way out, and I'll become the next diners, drive-ins, and dives when Guy Fieri finally succumbs to, I don't know, some sort of heart attack. So that's it. That's the reason that we're here. And I can't imagine this thing isn't going to get bigger. I'm very excited. I haven't been this excited in quite some time. All right, so the first guest is going to be future Hall of Famer, Jets center, Nick Mangold, who's a very good friend of mine. For people who don't know, Nick. For people who don't know, Nick Mangold went to Ohio State. Nick Mangold loves everything about the state of Ohio. So when I found out that Grater's Ice Cream, which in my opinion, is one of the greatest ice cream brands in the world, particularly their the black raspberry chip. If you go to Cincinnati Airport, Grater's is in the Cincinnati Airport, so at least do that there. But if you don't go to Cincinnati Airport, go to Graters.com or whatever the hell it is and get yourself some of that today. Grater's is fantastic ice cream. So Grater's decided to do a collabo with another Cincinnati staple that is very, very polarizing, and that's Skyline Chili. Skyline Chili is one of those chilies that has a lot of warm spices in it. So you're going to taste more cinnamon than you normally would in any kind of bowl of Texas Red that you have. Or for Ian's case, whatever kind of chili he orders at Wendy's. So those warm spices that are in the Skyline Chili are now in a collaboration with Grater's Ice Cream. And so they're doing a Skyline Chili ice cream. Inside of it are oyster crackers, which obviously are some of the greatest crackers in the world. I had mentioned on social media how intriguing the idea of this was. So Grater sent me out a case of the ice cream. I'm going to sit here, talk to Nick Mangold about how fat he was in the NFL. The fattest fuck that he's ever met in the NFL and beyond, because these guys are big boys. Where he is now on his journey. What's the best thing that he's ever ate? Where do I have to try? And all that stuff. And it'll all culminate in he and I doing a little taste test of the viral Grater's Ice Cream Skyline Chili collabo. So without further ado, my first guest on You Gotta Try This, my first of many, is going to be my good friend Nick Mangold. All right, so as promised, I'm sitting here with my first guest for You Gotta Try This. I should say our first guest, because Ian's here on the ones and twos. By the way, this is a learning process from Ian. So he's like now, commanding a podcast. So anything that goes wrong technically, it's all his fault. Don't even fucking come at me for it, because I just don't care. But most importantly, I'm sitting here with my very good friend. So one of my best friends in the world is Willie Colon, right? Willie Colon is my guy. I consider him a brother. Know Willie's family, the whole deal. And one of the best people that Willie has ever introduced me to, because I wouldn't have known you otherwise, right, has got to be Nick Mangold. And Nick Mangold has always been extremely generous with his time. I think he just likes hanging around at Barstool, good people and stuff like that, and having a good time. Most people do, but they don't kind of go about doing it. And Nick does. So I invited him to come on and do this. We're going to be tasting the Grater's Ice Cream Skyline Chili collaboration in a little bit. We're going to have that running as a separate short somewhere on YouTube. So make sure you tune in for that, because Nick is very opinionated and very Ohio first. He went to Ohio State. They beat Notre Dame, which is where I went for a national championship this year. So I don't necessarily like him as much as I have, but Nick is here nonetheless. What have we done before as far as food goes, Nick? You and I have done a couple of things.
We've done a couple of things.
Yeah.
My favorite, I think, was Oktoberfest for breakfast.
Yeah. Stop. So we had Oktoberfest at breakfast, and everybody had to try to find. My wife went out and got a Drindle, I think it's called. The ones where the tits get puffed up, and the St. Pauli girls dress. So she went out and she got that at some cheap, costume store. I ordered lederhosen off of bigandtallcostumes.com. It was to me in 3 days. Nick shows up, full blown, legitimate as balls, Viking approved lederhosen that you got in Germany, I think, right?
I bought it from a store in Germany.
Yes.
I wanted to be authentic.
And it was, what was it made of?
Lambskin.
Yeah, lambskin. So we had the guys from Hard Factor.
Yeah.
Those guys, great guys.
Great guys.
Yeah. And they had the Party City fucking lederhosen. I looked a little bit better, so I felt like the cock of the walk. And then Nick comes in looking like he had just stepped out of one of the brow houses, enjoying a slaughter bowl and a big stein of Pilsner. So we did that Oktoberfest. What else did we do?
We did the Scotch tasting with the haggis.
Yes. On, what is it, Robert Burns' Day?
Yes.
Yeah, the Scottish poet. Yeah. So to celebrate the Scottish poet Robert Burns' birthday, they do like a recitation of some of his works, and they do it while they're throwing down scotch. Like you just lost a loved one. We invited a bagpiper who brought haggis and a scotch expert, and this poor bastard ran into me, Willie, and Nick Mangold, and we had to carry him into his fucking Uber.
Yeah.
Right? We laid this guy out. He brought like 6 Aberlour.
Abilene.
Something like that. Yeah. So came in, put out a bunch of scotches. I don't drink a lot of brown, but when I do, I do. But Willie and Nick and I, this 3-headed Hydra, we absolutely destroyed the guy. What else have we done?
We did Hogs for the Cause down in New Orleans. Yes. That was a lot of tasting, which was fantastic. A little hectic.
Very.
But the food was fantastic.
Did it with Mincy?
Uh-huh.
You didn't do the judging, though.
No.
I had to judge. So when I signed up, so Hogs for the Cause is a great event. It happens once a year down in New Orleans. They raise a bunch of money for the Ronald McDonald House, I believe, down there.
Yeah.
So great cause. We had Team Porknoy a couple of years ago. And Nick's like, yeah, I'll go down and fuck with you guys. It doesn't matter. So Mincy, my wife, helped set up a lot of the stuff. You had gone down.
Was working.
Yeah. I was on the road for like 14 days straight because I was doing like a bunch of boxing stuff. I showed up kind of late. We had a goddamn ball. We didn't win a goddamn thing.
Nope.
Mincy put together some of the best minds in barbecue. Mm-hmm. And we just didn't jive the way some of these other teams did. So I think we took like 15th in one of the wing leagues. But we spent a lot of time. We preempted a lot of shit, and it didn't work out well.
But the other food that we tried was fantastic.
Yes.
So that worked out well.
But I had to judge. Mincy's like, hey, y'all, would you judge ribs with me? And by the way, I love Mincy. He's been on episodes of You Got to Try This With Me. Shout out Ben Mintz. He's going to be on the show, obviously. Will you judge barbecue with me? I said, yeah, sure. It's a full day. And you can't eat a lot, and it's really brutal. You just have like dozens of those styrofoam clamshells in front of you, and you're blind testing what are very similar ribs. There's like a nuance to it, smoke ring firmness, all this kind of stuff that they give you a crash course in. Obviously, I had read up on it beforehand, and I'm glad I did it. I'll never fucking do it again.
Yeah, I've made that mistake judging the New York City Food and Wine Festival.
Oh, okay.
Burger Bash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the first time I went to it and they asked to be a judge, I said, yeah, sure. And so there's probably 30 some burger places. I was eating the whole burger and it just turned into a bad experience.
You still have the barbecue sauce?
Still have it.
Okay. Talk about it.
So it's my own recipe. It's one that I made up. And unfortunately for us, we rolled off production March 23rd, 2020. Which was a good time to try to sell barbecue sauce.
Right.
So we're a little slow go. And then after the pandemic and the supply chain issues, distributors weren't taking on little people. So right now I'm the distributor. So if you need some, just hit me up. I'll drive it out to you. But it's fun. It's neat. The sauce is like nothing you've ever had, but it's barbecue sauce.
Right.
And so it's something that I love. I made it up in my kitchen. Just putting recipes together. And so it's been fun.
Ken Jack is a huge fan of the spicy one. So there's at least 2 of them. I've had 2 of them.
The original and the spicy.
Yeah, the original and the spicy. And Ken Jack absolutely raved about it. But it is a quality barbecue sauce because when you first had it, I was one of the first people to try it. Mm-hmm. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
We've also done
Committed Pig, the burger.
The Committed Pig. Yeah. So back in the day before everything went smash burger, Committed Pig was the first or one of the first to do their burgers on donuts. Mm-hmm. So I'd gone to Morristown, New Jersey with my son. Morristown, New Jersey has a good place called like the Video Game Vault or something. It's an old school bank that they converted into just old arcade games all over the place. So you go in there, $25 and you play whatever you want for an hour. So you go from Joust to Pinball Machine to Miss Pac-Man to this to that, the whole deal. So I did that. And then afterwards I went to the Committed Pig. That's where we met you. And we did the burgers on the donuts, which was kind of a cool thing. And then we almost did Namkeen together, which is in Chatham, New Jersey. Chatham. And if you guys ever, so Namkeen, and they do some sort of Indian butter chicken type thing, but they do that Indian chicken on a waffle. So it's like almost like a Nashville hot with Indian spices served on like this waffle. And it was, I will tell you, eat it there. I ate half, brought the other half home. By the time I closed the box, it already turned into a lump of shit. But there, I got to go back. I haven't gone back since.
It's fantastic.
Yes, we'll go with you.
I would go medium heat. Don't go for that.
Yeah, they can really bring the spice on that.
They will blow your face off.
Talk to me about you and food. Like, obviously, you're a guy with a good palate. We just spoke about how we've eaten together before. You're also a big man. How much do you weigh right now?
Don't know. Haven't just stepped on.
How much did you weigh at your peak in the NFL?
315.
315 was your top, and you spent 10 seasons? 11 seasons in the NFL, around 315 pounds. How tall are you?
6'4".
6'4", 315 pounds. Would you consider that big or small for a center in today's game?
I shockingly small.
Right.
I've been around the Jets locker room, and I don't know how I played in the NFL. Those guys are huge.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's the biggest guy? Who's the fattest bastard you've ever played for? And I say that affectionately. I've called my mom a fat bastard. So who's the biggest guy that you've ever played for that you said, holy shit, this guy can put him away and he's a fucking planet?
Breno Giacomini.
I don't know that.
Oh, Breno's so.
Do you know that name? Breno Giacomini? Yeah, he knows it.
So Breno is a magnificent person. So if you think
great name,
if you think Willie's a trip and then I'm a trip, Breno goes a whole new level. So a little backstory on him. He is, his parents came here from Brazil, moved to Boston. English is his second language.
Right.
Portuguese is his first.
Is it? Yeah.
So he's 6'6".
Really?
He's 340. And he's broken English, and he's a wild child.
Really?
With a Boston accent.
Really?
He's unbelievable.
So second language English with a Boston accent and Portuguese primarily spoken at the home, or at least when he was growing up.
Yep.
And what was he like? Was he just throwing down a lot of meats? Was he like what these guys talk about now, professional athletes, is how many, what are those, uncrustable things? The little fucking
the
things?
Uncrustables.
It seems like the NFL is one of the biggest purchasers of Uncrustables or something because they pop those like aspirin.
Right.
What was like the big thing back in the day, way back when did you walk away?
2016 was my last year.
2016. So you've been away from the league for less than 10 years. So not that huge a jump, but compared to 10 years ago, what was the big thing that you guys would go out and eat in the locker room? What's the food thing?
So it changed. I watched it change from when I was in college through the NFL and how they got more strict on nutrition and making sure you're putting the good stuff in your body. When we were in college, our pregame meal the night before was Wendy's double cheeseburgers.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's at Ohio State.
Yep.
Okay.
That was great.
Wendy's double cheeseburgers. Then you got out onto and played as Did you win a national championship when you were in? Yeah, no big deal.
No big
deal. Jesus God. Who's your coach? Tressel?
Tressel.
Yeah. Okay. Any free tattoos?
No.
He got in trouble for that, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. It's a dirty university.
Well, not that dirty.
So
Giacomini,
because I'm going to mention Willie one more time. The first time I went out drinking with Willie, we went out martini drinking. And I sat down in a restaurant with him. I ordered a martini. He piggybacked my order. And when he went to take a sip, he destroyed it. And he destroyed it without his gullet moving. Like, he never swallowed. So it was essentially like taking martini and dumping it into a trash can. I was like, holy shit, I'm in trouble. So 8 martinis later for him, 4 for me. And, I'm 1 martini, 2 martini, 3 martini floor, right?
Right.
And it's just a different level. And then I've seen it with you too. I think I should have mentioned you're my second favorite Jet of all time, just behind William, but you know how close we are.
Right.
Then eating and drinking with you, I cannot keep up. So when I was in Chicago a couple of weeks ago and they were doing the case race, all of a sudden you walked in and I was like, that's a fucking ringer. This thing is over. How'd you do?
I feel like I felt pretty prepared for it. I was a little disappointed that we changed the rules in the middle of it because it was getting a little chaotic. We were trying to play to the rules, but then they just switched it. And I'm not a big chugger, so that slows me down, but I can put it away. But it was a lot of fun. That was, if breakfast was still going well, then they figured out the case races. Our team would be unstoppable.
We did a thing. Wow, we've done a lot of content together. Yeah. Remember the York Hall football?
Oh yeah,
we were a team on that too. Myself, you, and Willie against.
It was
Che,
Big Cat,
Che, and maybe PFT or Hank. One of those two.
Maybe Hank. Yeah.
And then we got bombed. I was shaking martinis. During the thing, we won. And then I don't think Big Cat likes to talk about this, but he got into an argument with Willie, like a make-believe argument where he like hit Willie and Willie doesn't like play around with that. So he picked up Big Cat off his feet. Big Cat's a big man. You know, it's not an ironic nickname. Picked him off his feet and threw him down. That was the first time I found out Big Cat had a bad back because we all had to go time out, the whole deal.
Yeah.
I'm sure he doesn't like telling that story, but I just did it nonetheless. But so we'd done that. And again, I was like, these guys are on a different goddamn level. How young were you when you noticed that you were just built differently from all the, was your mom and dad, are they both big?
No.
Okay.
Really. It never dawned on me until I went back and looked at high school pictures. And then I realized it was like, oh my God, I was so much bigger than everybody else.
Everybody, right?
Yeah.
But you weren't biggest kid in your class going like, I was biggest kid in my class all throughout grammar school.
I was close to the biggest now thinking back on it, but like it seemed normal. So like I left 8th grade at 6 foot, 200 pounds.
Okay.
And that was
6 foot, 200 pounds in 8th grade. Okay. Yeah. It's a big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about,
I left high school senior. I was 6'4", 260.
Okay. What's the lightest you played at? If 315 seemed to be like around it.
305.
Okay. So you kind of stayed in that little thing. And then otherwise you probably start to get a little bit pushed around.
Yeah.
So what made you so good? What made you so good if you're not ripped to shreds or 360 pounds or anything like that? You just have no center of gravity. You're basically.
No, I think wrestling helped a lot, which I tried to get anyone I talked to was like, I don't like wrestling, but I think it was great for me for leverage and technique. And I think that was the big thing for me was technique.
Okay.
Just using their angles, my angles, and being able to finesse.
You just started coaching the high school team, right? The local high school. What team? What?
Del Barton.
Yeah, no big deal. So you're coaching Del Barton. Are you telling the kids, because you do some line coaching for them? Are you telling the kids that maybe on the off season they should be doing some wrestling?
Yeah.
Is that the cheat code?
That's the cheat code for offensive linemen.
Really?
Yeah.
And then you go into the league. You get drafted by the Jets. So that's the only team you've ever played for.
Right.
On your rookie year, you hear about these ridiculous bills that rookies have to pay when they go out to eat. Did you get fucked with that?
Yeah. So my rookie year, we were the first team since 1973, I think it was, to draft 2 offensive linemen in the first round. So the veterans on the team, it was me and DeBrickshaw Ferguson.
Yeah, Brick.
Realized that they have 2 first round picks. So they decided for our rookie dinner, it wouldn't be in the city. It would be at Atlantis in Bahamas.
Oh.
And so we had to fly everybody down to Atlantis.
Okay.
And put them up and then have dinner down there.
Really?
Yeah.
And was it a real fuck you meal too? I mean, did somebody else took the wine list and you started to go, I can really do some damage with a wine list. You know this.
Oh, yes.
Right? And I sometimes, if I take my blade out, it doesn't go back in until it's filled with blood. That's what I'll do to a fucking wine list. So I can imagine an NFL offensive lineman kind of taking you guys over the coals. I've been to Atlantis too. It's not a cheap meal, right?
The meal itself was not that crazy just because we had paid for flights and hotel rooms and drinks.
That's a beautiful thing to do as far as a hazing goes. Like have your guys fly you to the Bahamas and then buy you a very, very nice dinner.
Yeah. That sounds pleasant.
Have you ever done it then to rookies afterwards once you became a grizzled veteran?
Make them fly us anywhere?
Yeah.
No.
That seems like a one-off, right?
Yeah, because we didn't have any first-round picks.
Oh,
so
okay.
We usually try to take it easy on the low-round guys.
Right.
And so the one year that we did go crazy at Del Frisco's.
Double Eagle?
Yeah, Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
We came out with us.
And
so first-round quarterback.
Yeah.
That we took advantage of.
Right.
Just buying magnums and magnums.
Yeah. Del Frisco's can run it up.
They can run it up.
They can run it.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty well. What's something that you eat, maybe from your childhood, that people would be either grossed out by or disappointed in?
Ooh, it probably grossed out by it because it's not the best food. I love a McDonald's Big Mac.
Really?
Yep.
Still to this day too, right?
Still to this day.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, I can only have 1 or 2 a year, but when I got a craving for it, it's the best burger I've ever had.
Okay.
That's from, I know it's not right. Like,
right.
It's wrong.
Yeah. Like, and that's the whole thing. Like, I've seen you go and eat gigantic pub burgers.
Mhm.
You know, like there's a big debate on the smash burger versus the pub burger. You
Right.
know, I don't know where I lie on it because I eat so much of both. But to say that McDonald's, it's just something in it then, right?
Yeah. It's just something nostalgic that I was like, after, you know, you go to the dentist and during school day and then you're going back to school and your mom picks you up at McDonald's and you walk into the cafeteria like the cock of the walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got my Big Mac. Like, I remember when I was allowed to get the Big Mac.
Really?
All right, you're big enough now. Like, you can get.
Oh, the parents said you made it to the show. You can get the
Yeah. Yeah. I made it. I mean,
Your sister was an Olympic power lifter,
mhm.
right? And obviously she's not competing anymore. So you have you, an offensive lineman, national champ, first round draft pick going to the NFL. You have your sister, who's an Olympic power lifter, which in itself is demanding thousands of calories a day. The other two siblings, you're the oldest of four with three sisters. Did the other two siblings essentially resemble those two puppies that can't get anywhere near the bowl of dough? Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't, like you said, your parents aren't that big. I grew up with two brothers. My brothers are both big like me, except that they're strong, unlike me, right? Like, I'm big and weak. They're big and strong. So we used to fight for the chicken hearts when my mom would roast chickens. We'd fight for fucking chicken hearts. You know, my older brother, Terrence, was a shrimp counter. All right, mom made this many shrimp. We're each going to do 6. Never passed a fucking college math course, but holy shit, he was an Asian mathematician when it came to fucking counting shrimp. So it was competitive eating by me in the McCarthy household growing up on a sleepy block in Brooklyn. What's it like sitting down to a trough with the Mangold family, especially growing up?
So growing up, I think it was, my third sister, she's the baby. She's 16 years younger than me.
Oh,
So
wow.
she kind of missed that.
She was a mistake.
Well, no, she was the byproduct of a mistake.
Oh, okay.
It was a mistake. And then it was like, oh no, we really do want to have one more.
Yes, yes.
And then, no.
Right.
But so she missed out, I think, on the big era of fighting over the food and everything. So it is me and my weightlifting Holly's sister.
Holly, yeah.
And then my other sister is much smaller than the two of us.
Okay, that's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And my dad is 5'7", my mom is 5'5", and I'm 6'5",
Mhm.
and my brothers are like 6 foot, maybe like 5'11". So we're above average where my parents aren't. So if like we went to mass, it was like boom, 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 like and it ended at me, even though I wasn't the oldest. So it's kind of weird to me that. What did your dad do for a living?
He was in robotics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. Like your life doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
No.
Okay. So like
It doesn't make a ton of sense.
Where did you go to high school?
Archbishop Alter High School.
Where?
In Kettering, Ohio.
Kettering, Ohio.
Yeah, just south of Dayton.
Okay. And somebody had said, that guy's a fucking monster. We want him here. And they saw something in you that led you to have a storied NFL career.
Yeah. I don't know what it was. I went to, actually, you'll appreciate this. So it was my junior year. We're summer before my senior year. And I go to football camps because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And I went to Ohio State's football camp. And Jim Tressel calls me in his office and said, we're going to offer you a scholarship. I was like, well, this is amazing. He goes, what do you say? I was like, well, I'm going to Notre Dame's camp next week. And then so I'll let you know. So I go to Notre Dame's camp and I got offered by Notre Dame. And so then I get home and I was like, what do I do? Obviously chose Ohio State, but those were my two offers.
Really?
Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Why didn't you choose Notre Dame? Who's the coach at the time? Was it Lou? No.
No, it was
Davey?
It was Davey.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in Ohio.
Okay.
If you get the opportunity to play for Ohio State.
You won a national championship and I
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess so.
It worked out.
When you're in the city, you're a big time world traveler. We just spoke before you sat down. You have 4 beautiful children. You're taking them all to Australia, right? For a spring break trip.
Spring break. Yep.
Which is, it makes me sick how expensive that sounds.
Yes.
Your children are now between the ages of 14 and 4, right? Is that this?
14 and 6.
14 and 6. So that's the breadth of it. Your kids now have been to London, Paris, Germany, Italy, Australia will happen, Mexico, all over the United States at this type of age. Is it one of those things where you guys go and take kids? Because one of the most annoying things for me when I had kids who were younger was the chicken fingers and buttered noodles stage. I snapped my fucking kids out of that pretty quick, which I'm very, very thankful for. When you take these kids there, do they really enjoy the cuisine of the places that they go?
They do a little bit. It was interesting. When we went to Italy, and we went to Rome. And my little guy, who at the time was 6, I think, he loved pasta, right? And so so we'd get pasta every meal, and he was a happy camper. And then we go to Florence.
Is he a big kid?
Yeah, he's
Is he bigger than average? Like that's what I'm saying. Like
he's gonna be a thick kid.
He's gonna be Mangold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
All he wanted was a hot dog. It's like, I just want I can't eat any more pasta. I just want a hot dog.
Really?
Yeah. And so we found a vending cart outside of the Leaning Tower of Pisa and got him a hot dog, and it was probably the best meal he ever had.
So do you feel like that you give up on some of the culinary experiences from traveling, which is one of the only reasons that I travel, because you have kids in tow?
No, we still take them. We'll find something for them.
Okay.
Like they'll figure it out.
Does your wife eat anything?
Yeah.
Will you try anything?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Like I'm looking forward. I'm going to try kangaroo down in Australia.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? It's a tough question. By the way, I haven't given them questions before this, so this is a tough question just to throw out.
Yeah, weirdest thing. I mean, to me, I don't like oysters.
You don't like them?
I know that I'd find them disgusting.
Okay.
But
what about cooked oysters?
Yeah, the broiled ones with the cheese and everything.
Yeah, I guess you do that to anything.
Yeah, anything.
What's like one of your go-to restaurants? If you had to have somebody who was coming into town, I get it way too often.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons why we started doing this. I get so many people who ask me for restaurant recommendations. And so, I'm coming in with my wife in 2 weeks. I'd be like, well, try this place. And they'll come back to me. No, we're staying in Midtown. That's too far away to go. I'm like, okay, try this place. No, my wife doesn't eat this. I'm like, don't ask me.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? So I don't know if there's a universal thing that I can, respond to people on where they should go, because I just don't know them.
Right.
But if Nick had a couple of like favorites, like his old standards that he goes to over and over again, if you have family in town, where would you take them in New York City?
You know what? We used to go to BLT Steak.
Uh-huh.
It was on 57th, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that place was
great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not there anymore.
Yeah. Used to walk in, they had the white sculptures, the cow heads on the wall. Mm-hmm. It was walking distance from I was on 55th and 5th when I was at SunTrust. So we could kind of walk over there. There was that little winding wheelchair ramp that goes down to the bar, right? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of the right place. Yeah, BLT Steak. All right, so that's not there anymore.
That's not there anymore. I love Dos Caminos.
Yeah. For
Mexican. Mm-hmm. Particularly the one in meatpacking, I think is my favorite. We go to Del Frisco's too much because that became, so the Jets used to practice out on Long Island, mm-hmm. out in Hofstra. And so, but we were still playing our games over here in the swamp. So leaving, traffic is terrible. Take you forever to get back. So we used to go after games. We'd just drive into the city, stop at Del Frisco's, eat dinner, and then finish driving home. So Del Frisco's then got a special spot in my heart.
Oh, okay, cool. So Del Frisco's is brought up by you a couple of times. If anyone from Del Frisco's is listening or watching on this podcast, you're lucky. You're welcome for the free advertising.
Yep,
maybe send a couple of meals, mine and Nick's ways, because I know he spent thousands in your place. If you had one meal left to have, your last go around, your death row meal, and it's not going to be a fucking Big Mac. I will not take that. I'll punch you right in the fucking mouth. What would be your death row meal?
Probably a fresh pasta bolognese.
Okay.
Something a tagliatelle.
Yeah. What about booze? How big of a booze guy are you now? How old are you now?
41.
41. So it hasn't all slowed down. 50, it's going to slow down. It's going to be pretty fucking miserable. Yeah. So you still have a little bit of life left in you. Uh-huh. You still a booze bag?
I can be.
Okay.
I need to be. I like my martinis.
Vodka or gin?
Vodka. Keep it in the freezer. Learned that from my father-in-law. It blew my mind. I was like, wait, why is the vodka in the freezer? He goes, so then you don't have to use ice and it doesn't water it down.
Yeah.
That's a smart man.
There he is.
And so I love the wine. Unfortunately, we haven't been to Napa in a while, so the wine cellar is getting a little empty. But the wine, the first time we went out there in 2008, I was blown away with just the wine culture and the wine paired with food, and got sucked right into it. So
we were having this cheapest bottle of wine that we ever had on a Barstool breakfast. This is Silk and Spice. Mm-hmm. It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Right. And it surprises me every time because, I could be a snob. Mm-hmm. It's one of the reasons why I probably came on this thing. But this isn't bad. I used to pour it in this thing called a porron, which is a Spanish thing. You pull it over the top. It comes out to a tiny, small nipple. You hold it above somebody's head and it squirts out almost just like a steady water gun pace You fill up their mouth with red wine. You go around the whole thing. They do it at a lot of paella places, and I love it. And at $11 a bottle, I don't think you can beat this.
Yeah, it's not bad. I can drink it.
When you crack something open at home, if you're not making a martini, you're a beer guy.
Beer, I have a couple of favorites, but not usually.
Okay.
I've gotten away from the beer. I just find it too filling.
Okay.
I'd rather enjoy the wine or enjoy the martini.
So you got the wine cellar at home. You got the vodka in the fridge. You got the vodka in the freezer. What vodka do you drink?
Tito's.
Okay.
Yeah.
American made, small batch. Every now and again, you'll have a beer. What's your other vices? What do you do that you know you shouldn't be doing anymore?
Scotch.
Is it scotch?
Bourbon.
Okay.
I fell into bourbon. I love bourbon.
You spend a lot of money on it.
Not as much anymore. Pulled back a little bit on that.
Because people have bourbon collections like that. There used to be just, what do you collect in the booze world? Very few people, some of them had older scotches and whatnot, but particularly with the NASCAR stuff that I've been doing, these guys are bourbon connoisseurs. I don't have that in my bag.
Yeah.
I don't. I have a couple bottles of bourbon at home. Most of them were given to me as gifts. And I just never go and visit that well at all. I
got big into the bourbon towards the end of my playing days, when money was still flowing.
Right.
So I do have a couple of bottles.
A couple, like a Pappy or something like that? Like, what do you go with?
So the disappointing part about Pappy's is just how expensive it's exploded. My father-in-law, who doesn't like to spend a bunch of money on much of anything, he bought me a bottle of Pappy's 23 for my 23rd birthday. And it was like $100. Now you can't find it.
Right.
Then if
and
you
now
do
you still have it?
No, I drank that.
You drank it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I mean, that's the way that it should be.
Yeah.
How come you never opened up a restaurant? Were you tempted?
Tempted, yeah. I almost bought a bar, restaurant bar, but then it fell through and never got back into it. So, and I was told that I dodged a bullet, and I think I did because it was like 2019, right before COVID.
Right. It's tough.
Yeah.
If you had a bar or restaurant, what would be on the menu that'd be better than any place else in the world?
Chicken wings.
Chicken wings.
Yes.
You're a big chicken. You know that you're talking to the guy who placed third in the National Chicken Wing Eating Contest up in Buffalo, New York, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you know that I'm a little bit of a connoisseur when I talk about that. What's your favorite wing?
My favorite wing is doing them myself, making a lollipop.
Oh, okay. Stripping, essentially Frenching the bone around, right? And pulling the meat over the top?
No. So what I do is I take the flat, cut the tip of it off.
Okay.
Pull out the small bone and then push the meat down.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people do the drum, but you still end up with the tendons and stuff in there.
Yeah.
And that kind of gets a little crunchy.
Right.
You do it with the flat, it's just all meat.
So you're going into a raw flat, you're ripping out the smaller of the two bones. Let's say it's the tibia.
Sure.
And maybe, I don't know.
I don't
know. And then you French it from there, pull it back around the end of the larger of the two bones, and then deep fry.
Deep fry. Yep.
Okay.
And
just in a buffalo type thing.
Yeah.
Or your barbecue sauce.
Or my barbecue sauce. I won a wing competition on Rachel Ray doing, I did a buffalo, a barbecue, and a teriyaki.
How cool is your life? How cool is it now? Like when you're growing up, I know that I wanted to be a lawyer. Like that's what I wanted to be. And I was all set to go to law school. Then once I had made that detour into Wall Street, I was like, I want to be a specialist. Like this is going to be the top of the world for me. And then when I went upstairs to be a trader, I wanted to be this. And now, like I said, I'm in my 50s and I don't know what I want to be, but I am legitimately having the time of my life. And I consider myself a blessed guy. You know, my family and stuff, a blessed guy. And the same thing can be said about you. So now Nick Mangold, you're here, you're out of the NFL and all that stuff. How fucking cool is it to be you compared to what you thought you might have been when you were in grammar school?
Yeah, I mean, I would have never envisioned anything that has happened to me, which is wild. Like it's crazy when you think back on it. My wife and I talk about it all the time. Like I've had so many different experiences and so many things open up.
Like you casually said you won a chicken wing contest with Rachel Ray. That's the coolest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah.
You casually said that your kid, said, I don't want any more pasta when you guys were vacationing in Italy. That's very cool, right? You just took the kids to London to see, you took all four of them to London to see Taylor Swift. That's kind of awesome, right?
Can't say no to my girls.
Yeah, but of course you can't say, yeah, no, I know they're apple of your eye and whatnot. Anything that you want to put into your mouth, eating or drinking, you can have. Like you've built yourself that type of cushion, and you did it through a lot of physical harm to your body, obviously, right? I mean, it wasn't a fucking easy road. But I mean, is this like just, what could be more of a dream come true for you than what you're doing right now? 12-inch cock.
What's that?
Having a 12-inch cock.
Yeah,
but other than that, yeah.
Hung like a horse would be fantastic.
Can't sue your dad.
I don't know. Like it's wild when I think of different experiences I've had from, college through NFL, and just the wild things that I've been able to do, all because I play a kid's game that I love.
Right.
And so that blows my mind. Like growing up, I always wanted to be an architect.
Really?
Yeah. And actually I started out in architecture school, and then, my freshman year, spring quarter, I was doing my architecture lab and trying to do spring ball. And there were nights where I wasn't sleeping. So I was like, this isn't going to work out. And since football's paying for school, I'll probably just do football.
So you gave up. But I got to be honest with you. If I wanted to put a new patio on my house, my architect showed up and he was 6'4", 315 pounds. I don't know if I'd be that good with it.
Why?
I don't know. You're more of a drinking buddy than an architect to me. And you're one of the brighter guys that I know. And the brightest guy on any football team is the
center.
Always. And that's just a given, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and some of the people that you've worked with over the years, please don't call any of them out. Actually, please do. Were probably grade A morons.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So it was brass tacks to some of them. Other ones, you probably had to go through stuff very slowly. How frustrating was that to not only be the center, who was actively trying to do everything that a center does, and also be a mentor and a teacher to a bunch of dumber people around you?
Yeah, well, there was one, and I'm not going to mention names because that's not nice.
Okay.
But
Brick?
Brick.
Okay.
He was a rookie. We were playing in 2015. We played Miami in London, like week 3 or 4. And then obviously you play your division twice. So we're playing Miami again. This is week like 13, 14.
Right.
We're rewatching the film from our previous game. Coach says to the player, what ocean did we fly over to play against Miami in London? And there was no crickets. And so he's like, all right, multiple choice, Atlantic or the Pacific? And he answered Pacific. And I just wanted to shoot my brains out. So
you've been to London. How's the food in London?
I love it.
Right.
People say it's terrible, but I love it.
Sneaky good. I've done a bunch of reviews there. We've been lucky enough to do a bunch of reviews there. Sneaky good. Some of it is absolutely terrible. Just like some of the food that we have here in the United States is absolutely terrible. Right. But some of the places in London that I've eaten, I've had some knock your eye out type dishes.
Some of the pies. So my favorite
pie and mash.
My favorite pub, in the Ship Tavern in Holmdon, their pies.
So fucking cultured.
Their pies are so good.
Right.
And it's just like every time I go to London, I go there and get a pie.
Do you do it with the malt vinegar? The chili vinegar?
No.
Oh, that's my new thing. I never tried it until I went to Mother Mash somewhere in Covent Gardens in London. And the guy's like, I was like, do you have vinegar? He's like, yeah, but I have the chili vinegar if you want it too. I was like, ooh, hit me up. Because I love the malt vinegar on French fries.
Right.
So they turn the pie over, and that's what you have to do. You turn the pie over, you poke a hole in it, you hit it with the chili vinegar while it's inside that gravy with the mash on the side. And I'm telling you, it's very, very good eating. Italy obviously is probably the best out of all the food that you've...
My favorite's German.
Germany, okay.
German food.
What's the best meal that you've had in Germany?
I mean, they're all bangers, but you just get a good schnitzel, and like you can't beat it.
It's simple.
It's simple.
Perfect.
Yeah. And the little bit of the cabbage on there, like or the kraut.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I was in Frankfurt on business, and I got blackout drunk drinking Riesling with a bunch of guys who were huge racists. And we went the next morning. I had to get an early flight. So I went to go get like a late breakfast. We were taking off around lunchtime. I got like a late breakfast at a pub. And the girl says, oh, you don't look good. I said, yeah, I need something. I'm about to get on a flight. I'm not going to make any fill up. Let me get you a slaughter bowl. Have you ever heard of this?
Slaughter
bowl. I've never heard of it anywhere else either. And what she brought me out was a big stein of beer, right? So I had like a Pilsner, something kind of light. And then it just came out almost like the molcajetes that they serve here in Mexican restaurants. So they bring it out in that big mortar and pestle where it's like cactus hanging off it and shit like that. This was a fucking bowl, and it was just filled with organ meats, sausages, and chops. Next to it, a loaf of hot brown bread, warm brown bread out of the oven, a crock of sweet cream butter, and a crock of whole grain mustard. And I went down on that like a $3 whore. I remember it being one of my best meals I've ever had. I've never had it again. And it might be the best meal I've ever had outside of the United States.
Got me rolling there. I had, it was a breakfast dish. I wasn't hungover, but it was still, you could use a little bit in your belly.
Right.
Nuremberg sausages, which are small link style sausages, over a cheesy, creamy sauerkraut.
Really?
Yeah, which I had never had before. That blew my mind. I was like, oh, this is the best stuff ever.
Your toilet, by the way, when you're in the NFL and you're eating like cheesy, whatever, sauerkraut and stuff like that, have you ever had any issues? You ever had any fucking problems with the gut?
No, but I am susceptible to the stomach bug.
Oh.
So if anyone says stomach bug around me, I will probably get the stomach bug.
Is there any allergies? Is there anything that you can't eat? I'm allergic to apples. No. So then you can just go down on anything.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And that's why you are the way you are. How do you feel where you are right now as far as weight-wise? You feeling like you're good or you feeling?
No, I stand to lose a little bit. I'm trying to get back into the large walking club.
Okay.
I had
LWC.
Had some knee issues this fall that slowed me down. That it was just took forever to get over. And then so cold. Like, I don't want to go outside. So
have the people that you played with though, like you see that they go one or two ways when you have NFL linemen come out. They either have to be buried in a piano box or they all of a sudden look like they're half the person they were on the field.
Right.
Like, what do you see from the guys that you used to play? Like I saw Brick not too long ago, one of Willie's parties, and that kid is still carved out of stone.
Right.
I believe. Like he's always going to be that way.
He's always going to be that way.
So from your perspective, what do most of the guys that you do? They get so fucking fat and disgusting after they leave because they're no longer, competitively doing 2 days or whatever the hell you're doing?
No, I think for the offensive linemen, like it's either they stay about what they were or they drop, 100 pounds and look completely different. It's always like the DBs. They're like, oh, you got fat.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You used to be really chiseled and skinny, but now you're just like the rest of us.
Welcome aboard, asshole.
Yeah.
So what's our next meal? You and I. What do you want to do next with me? Because I would sit down. I like you so much, I would pay for your meal.
Oh, that's cool.
And I would never go to the Bahamas with you. But what do you think our next meal should be?
I would vote Korean barbecue.
Korean barbecue.
You were talking about it, and that got my motor running. I would love a good Korean barbecue. Just going through all the things because they bring out all that stuff in the beginning, and it makes no sense. It's like creamy potato salad. Like,
yeah,
where does this come from?
So it's called banchan. Geez, I know a lot about shit, don't I, Ian? It's fucking pathetic. And they bring you out like 12 ashtrays, right? And then you got your bean curd. You got all this kind of stuff. You got those tiny little fish, right? Those little dried salted fish. Not the bean curd, the bean paste, which I love. And then you're right, the green onion. There's always potato salad, which sign me up for that shit.
Yeah, it's great.
But we're in the shadow of K-Town. I would take you to the place I used to go to religiously was a place named Madang Sui. I don't know if it made it through the pandemic, but there's so many good places around here. I would love to sit down and beat up Korean barbecue. The only bad side about it is that when you leave the restaurant, you're in a Korean restaurant. I mean, you smell like you were just working over a fucking deep fryer for 16 days. Yeah.
But it is. But your belly's full and you're happy.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a date for me. I would love to take you there. This is Nick Mangold. He's one of my closest friends. He was one of the greatest centers to ever line up on an offensive line in the NFL. Can I say that, or is that going to make you blush?
Maybe blush a little bit.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
And he's officially the first guest on the first episode of You Got to Try This. I appreciate you, Nick, and I implore you all to tune in to Nick and I trying this new Grater's Ice Cream Skyline Chili collaboration, which may or may not be disgusting, and we're going to be the judge of that. Either way, appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll talk to you next week on You Got to Try This. All right, so that's Nick Mangold, right? And as promised, we're asshole buddies. We spoke a little bit about Hogs for the Cause. When we were down there, I had a ball with him. My wife was down there with Ben Mintz. I wasn't too comfortable with that, but my wife was down there with Ben Mintz even before I got down there, trying to help out, do a lot of the stuff that Ben couldn't do to put together this barbecue team. And when Nick and I had showed up, because we were part of Team Porknoy that year, we had a goddamn ball. And every time since then, me and Nick get together, we're as thick as thieves. So thank you very much to Nick. And like I said, We're only going to have more of this. If Nick Mangold's the biggest star I ever have on this thing, then I would make complete and utter failure. So we're going to bring you some of the biggest names that I can find, some of the biggest names here in Barstool and beyond, and we're going to do this every goddamn week. So come on back next week for another episode of You Gotta Try This.